News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Cache Valley Pharmacy. A 36-year-old Layton man has been arrested for allegedly sexually abusing a Logan child 15 years ago. Carlos Sosa was booked temporarily into the Cache County Jail Thursday afternoon. According to court records, prosecutors filed a criminal case against Sosa earlier this month. It includes 2 counts of sex abuse of a child, a second-degree felony. Logan City Police investigators report the crimes allegedly occurred in 2006. Sosa was immediately released from jail on pretrial supervision. He is scheduled to be arraigned in First District Court September 7th and could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear, but patchy smoke through the night, low in the mid-40s, and then sunny around 80 tomorrow. Looking at mid-80s on Sunday. It's been to 82. Right now it's 80 degrees at KVNU. KVNU weather is brought to you by Logan Extermination. With fall just around the corner, get your lawn sprayed for weeds and treated for those pesky voles. Call Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
This is Phil with Cache Valley Pharmacy. We love being in Cache Valley and want to thank you for your support. Cache Valley Pharmacy features the best prices in the valley, and as always, free delivery. If you're in the market for prescriptions, check first with Cache Valley Pharmacy for the absolute best prices, especially on compounds and insulin. We've been doing pharmacy better than anyone else in the valley with free delivery valley-wide for the last 19 years. Cache Valley Pharmacy, the pharmacy delivery experts. Order your prescriptions online at cachevalleypharmacy.com.
KVNU News Time is 4:07. Members of the Cache County Council voted unanimously on August 24th to extend the 2021 deadline for county residents to file for property tax relief until November 30th. The vote came in response to a request from Diana Schaefer, the county's chief deputy auditor. Schaefer said they would like all eligible applicants to be able to seek and receive the tax relief they qualify for. In 2020, for example, Cache County awarded more than $1.1 million in property tax relief to approximately 855 qualifying residents. Under state law, requests for property tax relief must be submitted by September 1st, but the council members' vote has extended that deadline by 90 days. Cache County's varied tax relief programs include one for military veterans with service-related disabilities, another for active duty service members, and others for blind, low-income, and indigent residents. And a group of concerned citizens in Tremonton gather on the third Thursday of the month at noon at Bear River Mental Health to brainstorm ways to help people dealing with mental illness and to prevent suicide. Northern Box Elder County Suicide Prevention Coalition has 20 members, but not everyone can make the meetings. It is all volunteer, and only about half attend the meetings. Right now, all the counselors on the coalition are back in school for training, so there is not as many. There are not as many coming to the meetings as they usually do. Doreen Stever, the chairman of the group, said mental illness and lack of resources is a problem in their community. She explained that suicide touches all of us. We all know someone that has been affected by it. We are trying to change things. Right now, if someone calls for help, they are directed to a message that tells them to call a different number. Sometimes it could take as many as 5 calls to talk to a person. The group's goal is to educate, advocate, and enlighten people about how common mental illness and suicide are. For more information or to get help, contact Bear River Mental Health. Their Tremonton number, 435-257-2168. KVNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Information and news you need. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
A lot of our patients end up having autoimmune conditions. This is where their immune system, rather than attacking bacteria, a virus, or other bad things, it starts to attack their own tissue. This can cause so many different issues and symptoms throughout the whole body. The biggest thing for us at Red River is to identify what's causing the autoimmune response to flare up. This could be intestinal problems, blood sugar imbalances, cortisol defects, hormonal imbalances, along with something as simple as dietary triggers and environmental triggers. One of the most common causes, too, when you have an autoimmune condition is you'll have inflammation throughout the whole body. Not every patient will have the same imbalances or the same triggers, and so we have to customize a very personalized treatment plan in order for these patients to feel better.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
The excitement for high school football ramps up this weekend with the return of the Rocky Mountain Kickoff. 2 big games Friday night, August 27th. The first game kicks off at 6:15 and features Logan versus Stansbury. The late game is at 8:15 with 6A teams, Roy and Clearfield, going head-to-head. One admission price gets you both games. Gates open at 5:30. The Rocky Mountain Kickoff. 2 big games Friday night in the USU Football Stadium. Tickets are only $5 and on sale now at the USU ticket office.
Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They were named silver medalist for place to work and remodeler contractor. They thank you for your votes of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
The expert with a green thumb. It's the Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
What can you use on squash? The bugs and worms and everything are eating and killing them.
There are some very safe alternatives to use for insects, and it's called Lawn Shield. And the Lawn Shield is made for mosquitoes, especially in your lawn. But I use it in my vegetable garden. It works amazing, and it just repels the insects, makes them go away.
Thank you.
The Garden Guide, Saturday mornings at 8 on News Talk KVNU. For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight
With Jason Williams.
and I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. It is Friday, August 27th. Got a lot to try and cover in the next couple of hours, and so we'll jump right into it. Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com joining us in hour 2 for the For the People movie show. It's not a big week for new movies opening, but we're behind still a couple because we had a pile on there of movies. But just to warn everybody, new in theaters this week here in Logan. Well, if you're looking for something brand new, you've got Candyman. Yeah. A spiritual sequel to the 1992 original, meaning it's a reboot that's closely related, I think. I don't know. The original wasn't great. That is it. But you can still see Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic, The Protege, Reminiscence. Coming up in hour 2, we're going to be talking about one that Andy and I had both kind of ha-ha, chuckle, scoffed at in previous weeks that is turning out to be maybe one of the sleeper rom-com hits of the summer. Free Guy is the name of the movie, starring Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer, Joey Keery, and more. And what first caught my eye about this one is a friend saying, you've got to see this. The subtle Marvel movie references, Star Wars jokes, and more running through this are just clever, at very least. Go see it. We'll talk about it in hour 2 with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com. A couple of headlines to kick us off from around the state. I've been following this one just because I'm curious to see what the university does with it. But now nearly 2,000 students at University of Utah have signed a petition. This is students and staff signing this petition. They've signed a petition for the school to adopt a vaccination mandate. The reason I'm interested in following this story is that depending on how this goes, we could see pressure for such a thing erupt among student body and staff at Utah State University. So keep an eye on this one. Not that what U of U does, USU has to copy, but if one campus does it, BYU, of course, is separate from all of this, private institution. But as land-grant and publicly funded universities, at least in part, U of U and USU, oftentimes one follows the other. So I'm curious to see where this one goes. Yesterday, we haven't gotten the full report yet from the Utah Department of Health. Numbers up for Cache Valley in the Northern Health District already at CacheValleyDaily.com, courtesy of Craig Hislop, who tracks this each and every day for more than a year now. And yesterday, though, this caught my eye. Yesterday, the report was almost 1,500 positive tests in a single 24-hour period. We haven't seen numbers like that since January, but at the worst of the pandemic here in Utah. And what really stood out to me yesterday, and even for me, someone who's taken this very seriously and does believe the epidemiologists and scientists actually know what the H they're talking about, it still becomes a lot of days background noise, just another story, just another headline, et cetera, et cetera. The headline yesterday just ripped me out of that, at least for a brief time. And I offer that up to all of our listeners for the same reason. Not to ruin your Friday or bring you down or set you off onto the weekend on a bummer start, but just to, I think it's good for all of us to remember these aren't just headlines and these aren't just numbers, and families are impacted by this. For every person who has died of COVID-19, there are at least 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 individuals whose lives forever changed by the loss of that person. The hole left in their life, the change in their life, the trauma sometimes that comes with that, especially in those days, still happening, where you're not able to go in and visit, not be able to see this person. Just that alone. But this headline from yesterday's Utah Department of Health report, early Thursday afternoon, they reported that there was one infant, I believe a 4-month-old infant, that had to be intubated, had to be put on a ventilator at the University of Utah Hospital after contracting COVID-19. That just made me pause and just reminded me that this isn't just a news story every day. This isn't just, these are real people. Imagine the trauma for every single person involved, from healthcare staff to obviously family and friends, the parents of this child. Obviously, even if things turn out as best as they can, there's going to be trauma, physical and maybe even, young as the child is, even emotional trauma for having to be intubated. You're basically put in a coma and hooked to a machine that breathes for you, because otherwise you'd die. And that is currently the case for an infant, a newborn, months old, at the University of Utah Hospital due to a COVID-19 infection. So for me, that was sobering. And I've been pretty sober about all this throughout. I believe the scientists and epidemiologists. I don't believe there's some sort of secret agenda behind all of this. I don't believe, although the videos of people trying to prove it are hilarious, I do not believe the vaccines make you magnetic. What I do believe is that there's a surprisingly large amount of absolute garbage out there that people are choosing to believe. I do believe that this is all something we should be smart enough to get under control, especially considering how easy it would be. And I believe that when you see a headline like this, everyone should pause and think about, again, the experience of this family, the experience of the infant, he or herself, healthcare staff involved in it. I mean, I can't imagine having to intubate an infant, place them on a ventilator, a breathing machine, seal them off inside a hospital wing, and just watch. That's literally what's happening in this situation. Yeah, it's just tragic. That one story was just enough to make me pause yesterday. So again, I present that opening the show here, not to ruin everybody's weekend, not to give you a reason to be sad or down. I still am optimistic. I think we are smart enough to get this under control. I think the majority of people are far more reasonable than the people that make for good headlines or good video clips online. Unfortunately, that's who you're mainly hearing about, people screaming and waving odd flags at city council meetings as if putting on a mask was the same as asking you to cut your arm off or something like that. No, it's just put on a mask like you do the big boy pants every morning. I get it. It's happened before. I'm sure this happened during the Spanish flu. I know it did. There are history books written about it. But it's sobering to read a story like that. So if you'd like to see it yourself, it was literally just a blip in the full Utah Department of Health report that this infant has been intubated and placed on a ventilator at the University of Utah Hospital after contracting COVID-19. Obviously a very rare thing, but even one, I mean, how many is an okay number? How many infants going through this and or even infants dying is an acceptable number? What's your threshold? I mean, it should be 0, especially when it's preventable. So yeah, just a sobering moment for me. So opening the show with that today. I promise I'll keep it more upbeat throughout the hour. And of course, in hour 2, again, things will get very upbeat as Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com joins us. I got to throw this out again because we both panned this movie in advance, but Free Guy, and making quite a splash. We'll be talking about that in hour 2. More of the headlines from around the state, an update on talks and discussions over reservoirs. Things kind of moved ahead a little bit since we discussed this just yesterday on the show, or Wednesday on the show. So we'll get an opportunity to talk about it again. All that coming up here in hour 1 of today's show. KVN News for the People continues right after this.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you prepare for your journey. After all, retirement isn't the end of the trek, it's a new beginning. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's fall clearance time at Anderson Seed and Garden. Need another tree for some extra shade? Looking for a few shrubs to hide the neighbor's derelict car? Anderson's cash and carry sale is underway, and they have exactly what you need. Sale prices start at 35% off, but if you pay with cash, they'll give you an extra 10% off that plant purchase. That's 45% off with a cash purchase. Take advantage of the great weather, the perfect planting conditions, and the great sale prices at Anderson Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your qualifying wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove was voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah in the fireplace retrofit category. With the government's wood and pellet investment tax credit in place right now, Advanced Fireplace and Stove can help you navigate the paperwork for up to a 26% tax credit. That covers everything to have a new gas unit installed. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
For your next anniversary, give her the gift of diamonds from S.E. Needham Jewelers. Diamond jewelry makes a woman feel cherished. She'll also be impressed with your fine taste. Choose from an extensive selection of diamond earrings, diamond pendants, diamond bands, and diamond bracelets. You can expect the best price every day of the year. No need to negotiate because we offer our best price up front with our exclusive integrity price guarantee. S.E. Needham's is known for quality jewelry for more than a century. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm really excited about this
planned for next week, just confirmed before the show today, but I'd already planned to bring you some highlights on the show today of his words and presentations. But next week on the show, we'll be speaking to a man named Roger Brooks. You've probably never heard of him, but if you've been listening to our show this week, or if you were at Logan City's council meeting on Tuesday, you probably heard the name of the nonprofit organization Destination Development Association. The name, exactly as it sounds, of the nonprofit implies and aptly describes their work. Their goal, this team of people headed up by Roger Brooks, founder of the Destination Development Association, is to consult with cities, counties, neighborhoods, even at times throughout the country on planning for the future, but planning for the future as it comes to development, how you design things, the layout of things, and more. Roger often argues in the videos I've recently watched, just discovering his stuff this week, is really key. If it's not planned well, nothing else you do will work. If the streets don't work right, if there's too much parking or too little parking, if there's not enough walking space or places for people to just sit down and enjoy downtown, they don't stay downtown. It's some amazing stuff, and so I reached out after I saw this information as presented to the city council. I saw the Power of Downtown Plaza's report as presented as presented at city council. Then I reached out. I was curious, so I talked to them, and they agreed they'd come on the show next week and talk more about how they do their research, which involves I've just learned everything from secret shopping in downtown areas to driving around themselves to surveying people out on the street. They said they try to look at it from three different perspectives: a traveler coming through, a resident in downtown, and a business owner either located in downtown already or looking to locate in a downtown somewhere. And they look at it from those three perspectives as they do their research before they submit the final report. Again, this is a nonprofit organization, so why does Roger do this? Well, this is where things got really cool, and I decided he was a perfect guest for our show next week. Roger used to be involved with the music industry, and he has traveled the world and did so for decades with bands like Fleetwood Mac and others. He was a tour promoter, he was a tour planner, he was a tour producer at times, just amazing stuff. And he said he'd been everywhere, and what he realized is that some towns were fun to be in and others not. And then he realized there was a reason for that, and it usually had to do with their downtown and their nightlife. So that's where he got his start and founded Destination Development Association. And yes, he is consulting Logan City, at least in a removed way, supplying some information at their request on downtown, this downtown plaza that's underway in Logan City and more, helping local business leaders understand how this is going to change things. And, of course, everyone's hoping for the positive, but you got to take some risks here and there, right? It's pretty fascinating stuff, to be honest with you. Roger Brooks will be with us next week, so you'll hear him in his own words. But as part of today's show, I wanted to bring everybody just a little bit of a taste of this because I was told by his staff when we arranged this interview, they said, you've got to check out the YouTube channel. He has hundreds of YouTube videos that he's made over the years, ranging on everything from how to pack for a 2-week vacation with only a carry-on bag, something he learned, I assume, during his days with the tour industry and the music industry. But he's also got some more detailed stuff that I guess would be more appropriate for city planners, planning commissions and things like that, where he's talking about designing outdoor spaces in the right way to keep people downtown and keep them spending money at local shops and things like that. Again, this organization, Destination Development Association, has consulted large cities, British Columbia and that Olympic Plaza there they helped with, to Parowan, Utah. They helped here in Parowan, Utah, the city rebrand itself and market itself around one single downtown business that was famous regionally. I've heard of them, I know, but a business that is famous for their cinnamon rolls. Well, they decided to rebrand the entire town of Parowan and its downtown as that because their goal was to get tourists stopping in and spending money. Well, get this, it worked. It worked so much, in fact, that they were worried for a while it was too successful. They managed to adapt and invite the tourists in every season this year. thanks to this branding and retooling of downtown in this way. So this is what Roger does. This was just a little clip from one of his most recent YouTube videos that is dealing with how downtown businesses and downtown planners can think about things. The video style, looking to the future post-COVID. What did the pandemic change as far as downtowns go? And there's this portion of the video where he, not speaking specifically about Cache Valley, he touches on some things that have been conundrums here in Cache Valley forever, especially for downtown businesses. I've heard more than one business owner say directly to me, I wish we just knew the secret to getting the student body of USU here for 9 months out of the year at least, downtown spending money. We've never been able to really tap into that resource as much as we know is there. This is actually something that Destination Development Association and Roger Brooks had actually spoken about.
It's the best thing you can do because downtowns are about creating a sense of community. It is your third place. And if you haven't heard that before, the third place, the first place, here it is, your third place, your nucleus, your hub. And that's so important. Our first place is our home. That's always going to be our first place. And right now we're spending an awful lot of time in our home, that first place. The second place is the place we work. Now, sometimes right now during COVID, that second place might be a separate room in your house where you do go to work. But when we get post-COVID, that's the second place. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. This is the age of third places. Starbucks built an entire brand around the creation of third places. So there you go with that. It is your litmus test. But your downtowns help reduce the tax burden placed on your local residents. How much is your downtown worth? If you were to take the assessed value of it, I hope it's 30%, but many downtowns are worth 15%, and that means your residents are carrying the burden of your tax base. You want your commercial downtown to really carry a better portion of that to relieve the tax pressure on your residents. So the good news is anything you invest in downtown is an investment, not an expense. It is more important than creating local parks or sports fields or local amenities. And I'm not saying those aren't important. I mean, if you're the sports capital of Colorado, absolutely. But generally speaking, your downtown is so critical to your success. As a matter of fact, I've been working with Governor Doug Burgum in North Dakota. And Main Street is his very top priority of his 5 top strategic plans. Here's the thing, in North Dakota, they have 90,000 jobs available that pay 6 figures. But the general perception is, why would we move to North Dakota? So his top priority is downtown, it's Main Street, so that he can beef up the quality of life so that North Dakota is known for something other than frozen tundra.
That was just a part of the presentation by Roger Brooks, part of and founder of the Destination Development Association, a nonprofit organization, speaking about downtowns. But it gives you an idea of what you can expect. He'll be joining us on the show next week. I find this stuff fascinating because when we're talking downtowns, we're talking about a convergence of psychology, human behavior, and business and government planning. And so I've always been fascinated by this because, as Roger says there in that clip from the video, downtowns are a hub. I've never heard his expression of it being the third spot. You have your home, your place of work, and then somewhere else you go on the weekend or in the evenings, and it's going to be some third spot somewhere, right? And you're going to go back there again and again if you have a good experience. He's arguing in the video, make your downtown the third spot. Unique way to think about it. But I know that when I've traveled, when we all travel, we have this experience. When we are here on the weekends without plans but looking for some, we have this experience. So it's fascinating to me what draws people downtown. And he also makes a kind of controversial argument in which he says, there's this thinking that, you have a store and you have the 2 or 3 parking spots in front of it. and those parking spots are gold. You never let them go. He says, we need to let that go. And we need to say to businesses, is your product or service not worth a 2-block walk? Because if it is, you're going to have more people willing to walk the 2 blocks into a walkable downtown than those 3 spots are bringing in any day of the week. It's an interesting concept, but you can understand why it might be a bit controversial. It's also something that makes perfect sense if you think about it. We'll let him explain it in his own words, but again, a fascinating organization that was part of the discussion at City Council meeting in Logan this week because of their report, The Power of Downtown Plazas. It was discussed by City Council and has been part of the city's research in informing themselves as they plan downtown and more. That's what tipped me off to the existence of this nonprofit group, and I reached out after finding some of these videos and finding them fun to watch. And Roger Brooks, founder of Destination Development Associates, will be our guest next week on the show, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll have a firm date to announce at the start of show Monday. So just a reminder, the For the People movie show coming up in just a bit with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com, but we'll finish out with the last few minutes of hour 1 of today's show right after this.
KVNU News Time is 4:36. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Ernesto Lopez is an incumbent candidate for re-election to the Logan Municipal Council. He was selected in October 2020 to serve out the unexpired term of former council member Jess Bradfield, who left to serve as Cache County Clerk and Auditor. Lopez's interim appointment is set to expire on January 1st. On KVNU's For the People program on Thursday, he talked about what he has learned as far as one of the biggest concerns for residents.
We are hearing multiple things. One of the biggest concerns, of course, is housing affordability here in the city. And every time that a project comes through, if we have the chance of ask the question, will this help us with this situation in the city? We do, of course, and looking for ways to address that need.
Lopez said he believes that everybody on the current council is concerned about housing affordability. He was asked what he sees as some of the other top projects that the city is preparing for.
As you know, there is some capital projects that are kind of on the books or are being discussed. We have the big plaza that will be being developed in front of the Tabernacle.
Sure.
We've kind of talked about the new library that is coming, and I mean, not too long from now, we're going to see the final proposal for what the actual building will be like.
The final plans for the library will be unveiled at the Logan City Council meeting on September 7th. You can find out more about Lopez's campaign on Facebook. Search Ernesto Lopez Logan City Council. Governor Cox ordered flags to be lowered throughout Utah beginning last night to honor the service members and other victims killed after an attack near the Kabul airport in Afghanistan. The order will extend until sunset on Monday. Cox said in a press release, individuals, businesses, and other organizations are encouraged to join in honoring all victims. Military officials have confirmed that 13 U.S. service members were killed during the attack. Other reports indicate that an additional 18 people were injured in the series of explosions. And another Utah petroglyph has been defaced in the latest recent vandalism case of its kind in the Moab area. The Spectrum newspaper reports the damage appears to be a word scratched into the rock, including several names and a date. The Utah Bureau of Land Management said Wednesday that a concerned citizen found the defacing in Mill Creek Canyon and sent a tip to the agency. An emergency treatment removed or faded most of the words, but it appears a few letters could not be removed. First-time vandals can face fines of up to $20,000. $100,000. KBNU News Time is 4:39.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, patchy smoke through the night, low in the mid-40s, and then sunshine around 80 tomorrow. It's been to 82. It's 80 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Pharmacy. They've been doing pharmacy better than anyone else in the valley with free delivery valley-wide for the last 19 years. Cache Valley Pharmacy, the pharmacy delivery experts. Order your prescription online at cachevalleypharmacy.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Rochelle Haynes, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Tron Arnold and Edward Jones for Friday, August 27th. Equity markets closed higher today after the Dow snapped a 4-day winning streak on Thursday. Energy stocks led the gains, while industrials lagged. Inflation indicators came out largely in line with expectations, with food and energy being the biggest contributors. U.S. 10-year yields hovered around the flat line after Chairman Powell's speech. The dollar and oil traded higher, with oil nearing $70 a barrel. All eyes were on Fed Chairman Powell's speech today as Powell reiterated comments about inflation being transitory, which pushed investor investments higher as no tapering was announced. The Federal Reserve has been buying $120 billion in bonds and mortgage-backed securities to inject liquidity into the market and stimulate the economy. This easy monetary policy came about as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic to stabilize markets and aid in the recovery. As the economy has recovered and inflation remains elevated, the Fed will likely look to rein in these asset purchases, but the question is when. Consumer sentiment is also on the docket to be released today, which will provide a gauge into future consumer spending. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 242 points at 35,455. The Nasdaq closed up 184 points at 15,130, and the S&P closed up 39 points at 4,509. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.31%. In stocks of local interest, Thermo Fisher is down $4.26 at $548.51. Home Depot is up $1.90 to $323.38. Autoliv is up $1.13 to $89.74. Lowe's is up 25 cents to $205.90. Walmart is down 83 cents to $146.52. Nucor is up $1.79 to $119.85. Coca-Cola is up 11 cents to $55.65. Kroger is up 32 cents to $45.49. General Electric is up $2.71 to $106.09. R.R. Donnelley & Sons is up 15 cents to $4.81. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil was up $1.29 at $68.71, and the spot price of gold was up $26 at $1,821.20. This has been today's financial market report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Tron Arnold, serving individual investors and personalized attention with financial advice at 1202 South, Highway 89 in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact any of our 7 Edward Jones offices in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
America's infrastructure connects our communities and makes our nation work. These systems are vital to our everyday lives and Utah's economy. That's why Senator Mitt Romney led the way in passing legislation that makes critical investments in Utah's roads, bridges, and electricity systems. Critical investments in the infrastructure that makes America and Utah great. Here's Senator Romney on C-SPAN.
This is the gateway to better roads, better bridges, better water, better broadband into rural communities, and a better economic vitality for our country.
Repairing our roads and bridges, upgrading electrical systems, and increasing access to information systems is good for our families, good for America, and good for our future. Thank you, Senator Romney, for leading the way on a real infrastructure plan that rebuilds America and invests in Utah. Thank you for voting to invest in us. Learn more at let'sinvestinus.com. Paid for by Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions.
It's a Classic Cars Saturday night at the Event Center. Classic Cars, live music, and good times. The Classic Cars roll in from 5 to 9 p.m. Bring your friends and enjoy food and drink from the Event Center patio and Greek Street. classic cars and live music from the Band Basement Cafe. It's a free event. There's no admission charge to see these classic cars and listen to the live music. Bring your friends. A Classic Cars Saturday night at the Event Center, 12 North and 200 East behind the Cache Valley Mall.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people. Water, well, we can have endless discussions about water. Recently, Governor Cox, during the Direct Link with the Governor event here on our airwaves, said the state is looking at 400 potential locations for new reservoirs. David Zook, Cache County Executive, told us here in our studios just after that here in northern Utah, they're looking at 3 potential sites for 3 smaller reservoirs rather than one large reservoir site. They feel that would be more environmentally responsible. Either way, the drought has really driven home a fact here in Utah, which is that we don't have enough water. Our reservoirs, some of them aging, about $60 million plus about to be spent through granting programs through the state legislature, taxpayer dollars going to upgrade and beef up and shore up existing reservoirs where possible, including the Deer Creek Reservoir, which, interestingly enough, I just learned myself, supplies water to more than half the state. Not all of the water to more than half the state, but in some way or another, Deer Creek supplies water to more than half the state. That's amazing. And with $60 million in investment, it can last another 40 years and be more efficient. So there are a lot of options here, but the drought has definitely made everyone realize, from state lawmakers to county and city officials and elected leaders, that we need to get on this. In fact, we're probably a little overdue. So got me thinking, what is the state of the state when it comes to reservoirs? Could we actually build, would it be responsible or even fiscally possible to find 400 new reservoir sites? How are the existing reservoirs? Which ones are maybe going to have to go, quote unquote, offline in the near future? A lot of questions around this. So reach out to our friends at the Utah Division of Water Resources, and we were able to speak with Joel Williams, who is Assistant Director of Development at the Utah Division of Water Resources. And he told us, first off, you can't overstate the importance of reservoirs, and that building new ones has got to be a part of the picture in some way.
You can't understate how important reservoirs are in a state like Utah just on any given year, because of the way we tend to get our water, which is snowpack in the mountains that collects over the winter, and then when it melts in the spring and comes down, it kind of tends to come down all at once, and it often comes down before you really need it. And so if you're able to take that and store it in a reservoir, and then during the dry parts of your summer be able to depend on that water and use it as you need it instead of as it comes rushing down in the spring, reservoirs kind of make life possible. And then when you talk about a drought year like the one we're seeing now, they're even more important.
Really driving that point home. We talk about reservoirs here in northern Utah, Joel, as if, we're built out. We've put reservoirs where we can, and that's not entirely true. There are some options maybe. But what intrigues me, some of these conversations I'm seeing from the governor's office to even local water conservation districts here in northern Utah, down in southern Utah, conversations that are where basically they're saying some upgrades, some infrastructure investment basically in our reservoirs, and they're good for another 50 years. What does that entail? When we say something like that, what are we talking about?
Well, I wonder if maybe the story I think you were hinting at was Deer Creek Reservoir.
Yeah.
Of Provo Canyon that amazingly supplies water to 50% of the state. Now, not necessarily saying that 50% of the state gets all their water from Deer Creek, but that, in Utah County, Salt Lake County, Summit County, they get a portion of their water comes through that reservoir. And so amazingly, they are serving 1.5 million people some of their water. And so a project like that, completed in 1941,
wow,
is reaching 80 years in age, and there's parts of it that are kind of, they've hit their design life. Oftentimes when you design a project like that, the dam itself, you consider that to be kind of a lifetime thing.
Sure.
But there's components to it, maybe valves and fittings and things that you know are not going to last their entire life of the dam, and so they need to go in and be replaced. One of the things on that is the actual intake structure that allows the water to be taken out of the dam and put into these systems for use, and it is kind of reached its usable life, and it needs to be replaced. And so on a project like that, you think, well, how do you do that? Well, you'd have to lower the reservoir, let all the water out of it, and then you can get down to that intake that's down located at the bottom and replace it. And we thought, well, that's not going to work when you have the reservoir like that with so many people depending on it. So they took a really innovative approach and said, what if we had divers go in and do all of the work underwater? And we're talking like removing old parts, installing new parts, pouring new concrete, and doing all of this underwater.
Wow.
And so it's a really innovative approach. We were amazed when they came and said, this is what we think we'd like to do. And they approached, the Board of Water Resources saying, we think this project's going to cost $60 million. Is there a way that the Board of Water Resources could help fund part of that? And the board looked at this and said, hey, we really like what you're talking about. And the board has a revolving loan fund that was set up by the legislature back in 1947, interestingly, that has been able to go and build water projects, and then as those repayments come back, they can loan that to other projects. And it's been a neat program that's funded over 1,500 water projects across the state over the last 75 years. So using that revolving fund, the board was able to say, yeah, we could put $40 million towards this project at Deer Creek Reservoir, and by doing so, the project itself will take 3 years estimated to complete, to do all of that work without draining the reservoir. And once it's in place, it's neat to think that could then extend the life of that reservoir, and it could continue to provide for the next 80 years into the future, of allowing people to continue to rely on that resource for their water.
That is amazing. And again, for listeners, Deer Creek Reservoir supplies water in one shape or form or another to roughly 50% of the state's population somehow. It's amazing to think of this. And Joel, what intrigues me is we're not only, when we talk about upgrades to existing reservoirs, we're not only talking about extending the life of the reservoir itself, but some of these conversations have leaned towards ways that upgrades and investments in these reservoirs can actually be a water conservation tool. How does that work?
Well, there's some interesting ways to think about it, because you're right. We have a lot of existing reservoirs. We have over 300 major reservoirs in the state.
Wow.
And that some of the things that can affect those are, maybe the infrastructure wearing out, or we have a program in the state, a dam safety program, where we want to make sure that all of the dams are safe and not prone to fail. And so you got inspectors that are going out on an annual basis and checking. They're making sure that all of the gates are operational. And if we find something that seems like is a concern or needs to be replaced, we put that on the priority list to be repaired. And so we're constantly upgrading and repairing dams to make sure that we can ensure that storage. So that's one aspect of it, of ensuring that storage doesn't fail. Another part is some of the reservoirs you have, as the water flows in, it often brings sediment with it. And so you have some of your storage being eaten up by sediment that flows into the reservoir, settles down to the bottom. And so, when it was built, you might say, oh, this reservoir used to be 100 feet deep. And now you say, well, here 40 years later, it's really 80 feet deep now because some of that sediment has come in and filled in. And it's a bigger issue in some reservoirs than others. Some reservoirs tend to have pretty clean inflows and they don't get a lot of sediment, and others bring a lot of sediment, especially think of some of these in southern Utah where they get a big flash flood that comes in and brings a whole bunch of sediment with it. So there's been some projects in the state to go in and try to remove that sediment and restore their capacity. There have been projects in the state to say, what if we raised the dam a few feet, and that allows then increased storage. So there's ways to think about existing reservoirs and making sure we can maintain that usable storage, and then in some ways looking at even possibly increasing it with a few projects that we've seen.
Joel said that it's important for all of this to be on the table, and that as long as we're talking about it, we'll figure it out. But also reiterated again and again throughout the time we had with him that this is sooner rather than later. In fact, we may actually be looking at a situation where we have already waited a bit too long to get on top of all of this. So we might be feeling a bit of a crunch as if the drought continues into next year. He said we'll definitely see that. But he did say, though, there are a lot of options. And the state, again, the governor said, looking at 400 potential locations. So where might those locations be? Well, Joel had some thoughts on that. We've also got some hints and bits and pieces of information from around the state to give us clues. We'll dig into that after this quick break. Look at reservoirs, the state of our current reservoirs. How many reservoirs might we be able to build, and how soon? Can we actually supply enough water to keep communities like St. George afloat as population is expected to double there in the next 20, 30 years? Same thing, same question for northern Utah, though. In a lot of areas of northern Utah, will there be enough water? Just this week, we had a town in Utah, their tanks ran dry. The state having to step in and basically truck water into this. Now, this is a small town in southern Utah, but still, that's not something that happens often. And yet here we are. And again, this might be a multi-year drought. So looking at the reservoirs, looking at the water plan, what water managers have to say, all of that. And we'll continue right after this.
We love being in Smithfield and making it easy for our friends and customers to do their banking. Hi, this is Danny Hansen, branch manager at Cache Valley Bank in Smithfield. If you don't bank with us, I invite you to discover what a great financial partner you'll find in Cache Valley Bank. I'm anxious to get to know you and invite you to stop by and say hello. Now celebrating our second year in Smithfield, located on the corner of Center and Main, Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Hey, John Weiss here from Heritage Auto in Logan, Tremont, and Brigham City. Let's celebrate these last few warm days together and have you swing by and pick up a 2021 summer souvenir, a Ram truck from Heritage Auto. The Make This Summer sales event is still on, but you've got to act fast. Take home a 2021 Ram 1500 with low 1.9% APR financing for 60 months and no monthly payment for the first 90 days. Come to Heritage Auto, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Heritage Auto Group. Heritage, it's what drives our future.
The American Veterans Traveling Tribute Memorial Wall runs from Thursday, August 26th through Sunday the 29th from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. at Elkridge Park in North Logan. This memorial honors those who sacrificed their lives for our American way of life and mirrors the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. Special events will be held each night at Elkridge Park, including music and fireworks on Friday evening. The Vietnam Memorial Wall, August 26th through the 29th at Elkridge Park. This event is brought to you by Cytiva, the Cache Valley Veterans Association, and American Heroes Motorcycle Association, with proceeds going to the Dan Gillenskog Veterans Resource Center.
If you're in charge of hiring a company for commercial janitorial services for your building, call American Maintenance. For reliable cleaning of your business, American Maintenance is your simple solution. Curb-to-curb services, American Maintenance has you covered. For commercial janitorial services, American Maintenance. Call 512-0014. That's 512-0014.
That is hour one of today's show. Stay tuned, though. Hour two, coming up in just a few minutes with the For the People movie show. And Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com. We've got a lot to talk about, even though there isn't, well, I mean, there is Candyman, but there isn't a good new movie opening in Logan this weekend. There's plenty previously opened. You can get out and see if you haven't caught them yet, from Suicide Squad to Black Widow. And one that Andy and I kind of poked fun at last week and the week before on the show, starring Ryan Reynolds and a bunch of other folks whose names you might recognize. It's it's called Free Guy. It looks exactly like you'd expect a romantic comedy to look. The only surprise so far has been, apparently this is actually a really good movie, and one that both Star Wars and Marvel fans might get a kick out of for reasons not related to the plot. Curiosity has gotten a lot of people to the theaters. Critics are saying, don't pass on this one, even though they understand you might want to. We'll talk about it with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com and the For the People movie show, which is coming up right after this here on KVNU Logan.
News Talk KVNU Logan, the voice of Northern Utah, 610 AM.